Hello BookTube, I'm Jonathan, and lately I've been in a bit of a cyberpunk mood. I've really enjoyed some of the big names in the genre, including Neuromancer, Snow Crash, and Altered Carbon, among others, so I've been on the hunt for some more futuristic stories featuring low lives and high tech. I did some research on sci-fi books featuring urban dystopias, body modifications, and virtual realities in order to find the next 5 cyberpunk books I'm going to read. Now, I picked out 4 of these myself, and the 5th and final book is going to be selected from nominations from my patrons, so stick around to the end to see what the quantum wheel will land on. So jumping into the list, up first we have Diaspora by Greg Egan. By the end of the 30th century, humanity has divided itself into true Homo sapiens, Gleisner robots, and conscious software. A digital being Yatima searches for knowledge where the universe we know is just a speck in the higher dimensional vacuum. Last year I read Permutation City by Greg Egan, and it was my favorite sci-fi book I read in 2022. It is also a cyberpunk book that deals with a character searching for eternal life in the virtual world. I really enjoyed all the concepts to do with human copies, time relativity, and artificial intelligence. Egan is a hard sci-fi writer, and some of the science in Permutation City went over my head. I have heard the physics in Diaspora is some brain-breaking stuff, but I'm prepared to at least attempt to try to understand some of it, because I know that in the end I'll be rewarded with some imaginative ideas and some surprising twists and turns. Something that intrigues me about Diaspora is the technology and the different levels of intelligence and consciousness. Permutation City was pretty ambitious when it came to the technology, and that was set decades in the future. Who knows what Egan is going to come up with when you give him centuries to work with. And another thing I'm interested in is the cultural dynamics between humans with different levels of incorporated technology. For a hard sci-fi writer, I think that Egan is also quite an impressive character writer, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this technology affects relationships and communities. So far, I've heard mostly positive things about Diaspora. My friend Michael from Fit to Be Read is a big fan, and as a fellow Australian, I'm always happy to rep an Aussie author. So let me know if you've read this book or any other Egan books in the comments and whether you think I'm going to enjoy it. Alright, up next we have City of Golden Shadow by Tad Williams. Reni Sulaweo, a teacher in the South Africa of tomorrow, realizes something is wrong on the network. Kids, including her brother Stephen, have logged into the net and cannot escape. Clues point to a mysterious golden city called Otherland, but investigators all end up dead. City of Golden Shadow is the first book in Tad Williams' Otherland series, and this was sent to me by a subscriber, Lucas, and there's nothing I like more than a chunky mass-market paperback. So Lucas, it's much appreciated. I haven't read any Tad Williams before, but I have heard quite a bit about him on BookTube, mostly in regard to his fantasy series, Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, which has been highly influential on modern fantasy. Williams has a reputation for writing descriptive books with complex characters, as well as both utilizing and subverting familiar tropes. If you're interested in learning more about Tad Williams, Bridger over at the Library Ladder did a video that was a great deep dive into his career. So the first thing that makes me excited to read Otherland is the virtual world. The endless possibilities of VR make it an interesting place to explore, and it sounds like Williams as a writer has the ability to create a world that you can really immerse yourself in as a reader. The second thing I'm looking forward to is the mystery. Finding out the connections between real-world characters and the strange events going on in the city of Otherland. Mystery and detective stories often combine well with the cyberpunk genre, so I'm looking forward to diving into this one. I'll be reading this one in the month of September, along with Jimmy from the Fantasy Network, so check out his channel and feel free to join us and pick up City of Golden Shadow. Okay, for our third book we have Accelerando by Charles Stross. The Singularity. It is the era of the post-human. Artificial intelligences have surpassed the limits of human intellect. However, something is dismantling the solar system, something beyond human comprehension, something that has no use for biological life in any form. Accelerando is a novel written in the form of interconnected stories. Personally, I'm typically more drawn to novels than to short story collections, but I've been told that these stories combine together well for a complete reading experience. In fact, I've heard almost nothing but good things about Charles Stross. A while ago I made a video on hard sci-fi books, and Charles Stross was an author that was highly recommended to me in the comments. I checked out his bibliography, and Accelerando was the book that sounded the most intriguing to me. I love books dealing with artificial intelligence. Seeing how the technology is developed, what form it takes, and what impact it has are rich ideas to explore in a sci-fi setting. Secondly, I love the stakes of the premise. Something's dismantling the solar system? Yeah, that's not good. We might want to get to the bottom of that pretty quickly, and I'm on board for the ride. Let me know your thoughts on Accelerando if you've read it, or any other Charles Stross books. Alright, and for our fourth cyberpunk book, we have The Quantum Thief by Hannu Rajaniemi. Jean Leflambourg gets up in the morning and has to kill himself before his other self can kill him first. Meanwhile, investigator Isidore Butrelay, called in to investigate the murder of a chocolatier, finds himself on the trail of an arch-criminal, a man named Leflambourg. The Quantum Thief is the first book in Rajaniemi's Jean Leflambourg trilogy, and this might be the most polarizing book on the list. When I made a video on difficult sci-fi books, I received a lot of comments along the lines of, "The Quantum Thief is one of the most difficult books I've ever read, and I loved it." Or, "The Quantum Thief is one of the most difficult books I've ever read, and I hated it." So it'll be interesting to see what camp I fall into. I believe one of the reasons this book is polarizing is because of the technological word salad. Rajaniemi drops the reader into a futuristic world with a futuristic language, and it's on the reader to catch up. The second reason is that this is meant to be some pretty hard sci-fi. Personally, I think hard science can help flesh out some of the concepts, but as long as that is not at the expense of the story. And this seems like a pretty cool story. It sounds like it might play with time and physics, and we have the classic story of an investigator trying to track down a criminal. When you combine cyberpunk with hard sci-fi and a detective story, I feel like the potential is there. Let me know in the comments whether you think I'm going to enjoy this one. So as we wrap up The Quantum Thief, it's time to head over to the Quantum Wheel. Welcome to the Quantum Wheel, which will be spinning in order to find out the 5th cyberpunk book I'll be adding to my TBR. If you're enjoying the channel and you'd like to vote on a book that I read each month, check out the link to my Patreon memberships, where you can become a robot, android, or cyborg like Nima and a New Eden. So as you can see on the wheel this month, there were a few popular choices, but as always, all of the patron picks are both simultaneously picked and not picked until we observe a winner. Let's see what cyberpunk book comes out on top. The Quantum Wheel, it has decided, is going to be the Shockwave Rider. Oh, that was a slow wheel conclusion there. Really teased out the result. Well, there you go. The Shockwave Rider by John Brunner. So I own Stand on Zanzibar, but I haven't read that yet. So the Shockwave Rider, I'm going to get a little taste of Brunner here. Know what to expect maybe when I go into Stand on Zanzibar. But Shockwave Rider, I think early cyberpunk, sort of proto-cyberpunk in a way, very influential. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how much I enjoy it. If you like the sound of that, join me, pick up the Shockwave Rider and read more cyberpunk with me. Yeah, let's do it together. So those are 5 cyberpunk books I'm adding to my TBR. Let me know which ones you've read or which ones you might be interested in picking up. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash or just gently click the subscribe button, and you can find more sci-fi content over here.